Hey everybody, Aaron here. Just wanted to jump on real quick before we started the show. And this is going to be a recap of Siggraph 2023, which is a very future-focused 50-year-old computer graphics expo and exhibition. Before we get into that, I wanted to talk a little bit about the ACM, or the Association of Computer Machinery, which is the parent organization behind Siggraph. Then I'm going to go into a super quick explanation of what Siggraph consisted of, as well as some facts and figures and some insights about it. And I'm going to let Eric, who I'm going to bring on after I'm done, talk a little bit about his reactions and some of the bigger announcements. Let's jump in. What is the Association for Computing Machinery, ACM? Now, ACM is, according to their website, the world's largest educational and scientific computing society that delivers resources that advance computing as a science and profession. ACM provides the computing field's premier digital library and serves its members and the computing profession with leading-edge publications, conferences, and career resources. Now, the ACM began informally in around 1947 through some symposium events that happened at Ivy League universities like Harvard, MIT, and even the New York chapter of the American Institute of Electrical Engineers. Now, later that year, at Columbia University in New York, a meeting was organized that highlighted this increasing interest in computers. That day, they founded the Association of Computing Machinery, ACM. Their mission statement, created at the founding meeting, was, "The purpose of this organization would be to advance the science, development, construction, and application of the new machinery for computing, reasoning, and other handling of information." Now, since then, the vision has only grown, and their current constitution states, "The association is an international, scientific, and educational organization dedicated to advancing the art, science, engineering, and application of information technology, serving both professional and public interests by fostering the open interchange of information and by promoting the highest professional and ethical standards." So now that you understand what ACM is, you might be thinking, well, what's the connection to Siggraph? Well, Siggraph was the original computer graphics and interactive technology show founded in 1973 by ACM, so several decades after it was initially created. Now, Siggraph is actually a special interest activity by the ACM, and they operate doing a large scale of activities around what I just described. But Siggraph has really become perhaps one of their most well-known, if not the most well-known, initiative they do. This exhibition has gotten so popular that they just celebrated their 50th year of existence this year. And the category has expanded very much around topics like AI and computer-human interaction, which has formed other offshoots, or SIGs, like SIG AI or even SIG Chi. Now, whether you're new to the space or a seasoned veteran, we hope that these resources will provide you at least one thing that's useful. And of course, I'm referring to the show notes here, where we curated all the coverage we could possibly find and our own insights as well. Now, what took place at Siggraph 2023? Well, the bread and butter of Siggraph would be the research paper presentations, technical papers put out by researchers and universities. That was how the event started. And of course, keynotes and workshops around technical topics. So that was the first and main substantive chunk of this. There was an exhibition room floor. This is the usual trade show scene with countless brands, demonstrations, and ongoing presentations. There was a time tunnel display from 50 years of archived media. This was a very cool and creative way to showcase the historic history that has taken place over the last 50 years in a very cool, new, and engaging medium. There was an electronic and VR theater where they were able to demonstrate storytelling using the latest graphics techniques and immersive narrative experiences. There was Real-Time Live, which was the first year ever they live streamed this section of the event on Twitch and provided presentations of various tech demos. There was an art gallery, a very quirky and artistic take on technology, culture, and philosophy with a variety of exhibits. Then Our most favorite was the Immersive Pavilion, our favorite section spotlighting amazing emerging tech hardware demonstrations. So, our top takeaways and insights were Siggraph, frankly, began as really the ultimate global science hub for presenting technical papers and research on computer graphics and interactive tech. Siggraph is a massive undertaking run by passionate volunteers and researchers. The crowd included all walks of life, including students, professors, researchers, consultants, freelancers, influencers, corporations, startups, and even media organizations. There were over 14,275 attendees from 78 countries. And as I said before, they celebrated their 50th year birthday, starting with the event in 1973. Now, Siggraph 2024 will be in Denver, Colorado next year, and looks to be only gathering more steam and covering more topics. That's about it for my intro. We're going to jump into a lot more deeper discussion, and I'm bringing back Eric, who is a fellow event junkie and tech enthusiast. So let's bring on Eric.
Welcome to Emerging Tech Mastery, a show that demystifies cutting-edge technology like cryptocurrency, the blockchain, metaverse, NFTs, virtual reality, the maker movement, artificial intelligence, machine learning, cloud, edge, and even fog computing. Strap in as we ride into the fourth industrial revolution. Emerging Tech Mastery provides actionable knowledge, regardless of skill level, from experts in the trenches. We piece together this intel in easy-to-consume media formats, processes, and procedures. See you in the future.
Welcome to Emerging Tech Mastery. I'm your host, Aaron Mungle, and I have brought back Eric Azaris. Eric, thanks for coming back on.
Hey, glad to be here. Always a pleasure.
So we attended Siggraph 2023 last week, and that is a pretty big conference and exhibition on computer graphics and interactive techniques, in their own words. So we're here to talk about Siggraph. So Eric, how did you like Siggraph?
Siggraph was like no other. It was like going to Disney World. Okay, it's like going to Epcot Center at Disney World, but if Epcot Center was to update it every single year, it's not just like the 1960s version or vision of the year 2000. So it was really like going into the future. It was great. I had a great time walking around the exhibition floor, listening to all sorts of talks from industry leaders and doing demos and learning about technical stuff, learning about artsy stuff. A lot of great art installations, really pushing the technology to the limits and seeing what they can do. And also learning about the history of computer graphics, everything from the 1960s to the 70s. I don't know if you saw this, I didn't know that they had VR headsets back in the 70s. Okay, so I was walking around the show floor and I saw this one guy sitting down on a folding chair. I was like, oh, hey, how you doing? He was like sitting next to this glass case and there was these monitors set up. I was like, oh, are you the guy like looking after the exhibition? Or what are you doing here? It's like, no, I invented computer graphics. I was like, what? What? Yeah. Then he got into like, he worked for the University of Utah. And yeah, apparently he was like a celebrity in the computer graphics world. He created the first 3D objects using an oscilloscope. And he was telling me the story, and he was just talking to me at first. But then as he was telling his story, his origin story, the crowd started getting bigger and bigger. And like before I knew it, 20 or 30 people like surrounding us, just listening to his history of how he's like, oh, well, there was no way to show 3D objects, so I had to invent a way. And it just blew my mind because we take so much of this for granted. Like I could just fire up my computer and open up Blender and I could just make all these 3D objects with a couple clicks of the button. He had to turn knobs and like invent and weld things together on a circuit boards to create the stuff. So it was mind blowing, and learning about the history backwards, then also going forwards, learning about the potential for all the new cutting edge stuff that's happening in the world of technology in 2023. Everything from immersive technology, AI, VFX, computer graphics, everything from university papers and research to all the research that the big companies are doing. It was exhausting, and I just was a sponge. It'd take like a sponge and just dip it in the ocean, and I'm just overflowing with excitement and information.
Yeah, so that was a really awesome story, first of all, and really cool foray into just jumping right in. So I really quickly just want to lay some groundwork for people. So it started in, I believe, 1973, and you had technical papers being presented. And basically, like to your point, people on the cutting edge that are creating, like the first time, someone could make animation and moving graphics. I'm sure we could find a paper on that. And so there's all these people that have been working on this stuff for decades. There's such a long history of development that has led us to this current state of computer graphics and visual art. But I also want to bring it back. I like what you said about going forward and backwards. We're still working on the same things as those early days of the 70s, which is quite mind-blowing, because you would think that we've evolved so far off the mark. The fact is, no, we have not. We're still developing a lot of the same categories, but they're just evolving and growing. Tell us a little bit about, your reaction, and were there any highlights or takeaways for you in particular?
Yeah, well, gosh, it's amazing that Siggraph is like really putting your finger on the pulse of what's happening at that moment in time. Like you were saying about computer graphics, how it's always constantly evolving and evolving, right? Now, when we say computer graphics, we're talking across a lot of different industries. So the person that I talked to, and we'll have a link to his information, he gave me his business card and everything. Super
Very cool.
Great guy. Yeah, he was hired by the government to do 3D simulations for some secret project. He couldn't tell me too much about it. I'm sure it's classified or has something to do with military. And then also 3D graphics used for architectural drawings and 3D graphics for engineering, industrial, as well as for entertainment, for visual effects. For example, Toy Story back in the 1990s. I know that there were some precursors, or there was technologies that came out of Siggraph that led to some of the breakthroughs that led to Toy Story, which was a big milestone in cinema history when it comes to 3D graphic. Attending Siggraph is really like looking into the future of what's to come. So a lot of great things just walking around the floor. Oh, Aaron, I'm going to turn the tables around. I know that you're the host of the show, but I'm going to ask you some questions.
Okay. I like that.
Okay, so people were able to attend the conference in person, right? They were able to buy their ticket and go to the LA Convention Center. But then people that could not attend, they can log in and do a virtual conference. They could log in and access all the talks and see the live streams and everything. So what do you think were the top 3 most popular talks engaged with on the virtual access ticket? And there's data on this. I found this out.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give a guess. I would say probably the NVIDIA announcement. And then I know there were actually some VR announcements. Like I went to this event and I feel like I learned everything and nothing. Like your comment about the ocean was so dead on, because I'm reading through the press release and I'm looking at all the announcements, and I've collected all these recaps. Go to the show notes. It's a monster of a curation of recaps. And there's so many announcements, particularly like Meta had something, they mentioned some sort of experimental headset. So I would say, okay, my 2, maybe I'll give you 3 answers, is NVIDIA announcements. We'll just say, generally speaking, sort of VR headsets. And then the third might be, I'm just guessing, but maybe like Nerf and volumetric.
Okay, cool. So really good guesses. And okay, I guess I should have specified. So there were specific talks that were scheduled talks. And the top 3 talks that were attended by the virtual attendees were stylized rendering techniques. So this was a talk about the virtual effects pipeline, or how they made Spider-Man across the Spider-Verse. So that was the most attended talk, which makes sense because we're talking about computer graphics. It's a computer graphics conference. Yeah, but I mean, even if you look at the trailer or look at some pictures online, it's a very highly stylized movie. So it's not live action actors, but it's not just your typical 3D CG. It's like the stylized animated style. So they go over the process on how they made that. So that was the number 1. The number two most visited talk was practical proceduralism in production. That's where Disney animators broke down their workflow for how they created a this animated dog for a movie called Strange World. It was an animated film. So again, in the VFX realm, makes sense because it is a computer graphics conference. But number 3, you hit the nail on the head. Number 3, neural fields for visual computing. And I actually attended this one in person. Oh my God. There were so many people there. There was a packed house, and it was wall to wall people, and the volunteers, the student volunteers in the yellow shirts, they had to tell people to stand up or move to the side because it was creating a fire hazard because there were so many people there in that conference room. On top of that, there were so many people logged in doing the virtual access. So there was a lot of buzz about neural radiance fields or NERF specifically. So it was a really big moment for NERF this year. Now, here's a piece of trivia. In 2022, the paper that won the award, I guess they give out awards at this conference, Instant Nerf won the best paper in 2022. So that's the program they use for the 3D volumetric Nerf captures. Flash forward to 2023, there were like at least 20 different talks, papers, and presentations about Nerf. So this whole topic is exploding. I mean, we don't have to necessarily make this episode all about Nerfs, but I just wanted to kind of emphasize how big it became and how word is really spreading about this technology. So.
And how quickly it is evolving. And maybe a little hint here is you guys did a Nerf summit. So a little preview. If you are interested in Nerf, we're going to have another episode coming out. And so you can totally nerd out with us on that one. And that's probably going to be a long one. Nerf people, we're going to have a whole dedicated episode on that and the Nerf summit. So there you go.
So going back to the biggest standouts. So those were the most attended virtual conference talks. But for me, let me take out my list here. I have it written down on a piece of paper. And by piece of paper, I mean a Google Docs or a Google Keep note here. Okay, NVIDIA, obviously superstars of the show. Big announcements from Jensen, the head of NVIDIA. NVIDIA was plastered all over the place, rightfully so, because they had all sorts of technology announcements. He had a lot of great quotables. Basically, he wants to democratize AI. How crazy is that?
Oh, wow.
He declared AI as the new killer app. Yeah, he even said that this moment in time is equivalent to the iPhone moment they had back in 2008. That's how much he believes in this. He said that with the new hardware that NVIDIA is developing, anybody can do this. So that's where the democratization comes in, right? It's not going to be something that only a very few people can do that have a lot of money, that have access to the hardware. He wants it to be in the hands of more creators. And so they've been working on new hardware offerings that people can use for AI training, rendering 3D graphics, and also advancing their Omniverse platform as well. There was a funny thing he said, because, I mean, NVIDIA, I mean, they've been killing it the past couple of years, everything from crypto to AI to 3D graphics. So everybody needs their hardware, right? To do anything the past 7 years, you need an NVIDIA graphics card.
Or that's their skin in the game, if you will. So I like there's certainly, like, you obviously a big brand or corporation saying something like that might get a lot of skeptics, raising their eyebrows. However, it kind of makes sense. Like, they stand to gain in a big way by doing what you said, because we're going to need their tech. And a lot currently, there's a little bit, stranglehold might be too strong a word, but they do have a little bit of a, we'll just say, power position perhaps around Nerfs, because as of right this second, the programs run on NVIDIA tech. So anyway, that's kind of where NVIDIA is in this whole thing.
Yeah, and I will say that they are expanding beyond just hardware, and they're not just providing hardware GPUs, they're also offering some software solutions too. So Omniverse 3D platform, that's their equivalent of the metaverse and more. They have a lot of great templates that people can use to just get up and running, to create their own 3D worlds. And they also have some AI services, some AI cloud services that you can leverage as well. So yeah, they're expanding, they're offering more So they're known for hardware, but they're also becoming a software provider too. So they have software solutions built on top of their hardware that they're selling. So they're making some big, powerful moves. So yeah, so that was a big topic. I'd say number two would be visual effects in general, specifically for gaming and for entertainment. So that would be my number two topic. So number one would be NVIDIA. Number two would be visual effects. There's a tool called Weta from Unity, and they showcase their tools for 3D creation. I'm not as familiar with Weta. It's WETA. There was a big banner that we walked under every day. I think it had like a big blue whale on it. um, but maybe I didn't notice it until like maybe the third day. But I mean, how can you miss it? That's more of a me just like looking down at my phone.
And I think they actually had it on the stairs as well. And I took a little
Yeah, you're right.
B-roll
You're right.
of
They did.
it looked really cool
Yeah,
actually. So it came out really nicely
yeah,
on video, and I'm sure they planned for that.
yeah. So their whole offering is a brand new set of tools for 3D creation, simulation, and rendering for both gaming and films. So basically, it's supposed to allow creators to more easily make 3D creations. So that's always exciting as these tools evolve. And of course, there are all sorts of virtual production stages and motion capture solutions. Okay, so it's quick story time. So, did you walk around and see any of the motion capture stages at all? There were people with markerless motion capture. Then there was also somebody. There were also actors wearing like the ping pong ball suits.
I noticed mostly the black suits with the ping pong balls, and I may
Yeah.
have seen the markerless.
I found out that one of the actresses that was at one of the booths, I guess in the gaming industry, they use a lot of the same motion capture actors over and over again because they're so good at what they do and they kind of know the routine. There were some actors and actresses that have performed voice acting and motion capture acting for a lot of games that we all know and love. One of them was for an old series called the Nancy Drew Detective series.
Oh my gosh.
Out of all the games, it was like this point and click mystery game, puzzle edutainment game. Yeah, I was like, holy crap! I didn't know until afterwards when I looked on Instagram who these people were because like you walk around and you didn't realize. I don't know. I would have gotten their autograph if I knew at the time that was the motion capture actor for one of actually not just one of the for many Nancy Drew point and click adventure games. So. We're in LA. Everybody's somebody there, right?
Well, and really quick, just to add on to what you're saying, and again, I'm not trying to
Yeah.
jump into the next episode, but I just tiny bit am putting my foot in the door here. There was The Seventh Guest, which is that old school point and click horror adventure game, and there was a gentleman who
Yeah.
presented at the summit who was talking about basically doing sort of like a not exactly a remake, like more of like a sequel or another version with this newer tech. So that seems to
Yeah,
be,
reimagine it.
I'm noticing this pattern of going back, and it kind of proves how many of these games were breakthrough, and we might not realize all the different things that we've actually consumed during childhood that were breakthrough at the time that they came out. And
Yeah.
frankly, the game itself may have been a demonstration of the tech, which is kind of awesome that our childhood was a bunch of demonstration of futuristic tech, of which we're now realizing and seeing come to fruition, which is quite awesome.
Yeah, you're right. I remember that particular era. That's when Myst came out. Myst was popular. At that time, computers were just getting CD-ROMs, CD drives. So you needed some type of game to test out your CD drive. So you need to get Seventh Guest. You got to get Myst. And yeah, they use something called full motion video or FMV. Basically, you would get to a part in the story and it would activate a video, a pre-rendered video. And we'll cover this in another podcast, but and now instead of having a pre-canned like video that you would see on a 2D screen, imagine interacting with ghosts or a detective or a suspect in 3D. I mean, it just adds another level of immersiveness as if they're standing in the room with you instead of watching it on a flat screen.
And it's not just in 3D, it's like the whole immersive experience.
Yes.
Everyone's going to probably be tired of hearing that word by the time we're done with you as far as shows. But oh my gosh, yeah, like you're really in there. And I do think there's a great opportunity, as we were talking on our sort of nerve rehearsal show, if you will. Their art is evolving and the mediums are evolving, and it honestly trips me out endlessly to think about how it's a whole new experience.
Yeah.
If anyone hasn't tried some of these immersive things, try to have a little bit of an open mind, because we're kind of opening up into a whole new level of immersion and the way our senses feel. If anyone's tried VR, you've gotten a little taste of that. And I think we're just getting started. It's only going to get crazier.
Oh, well, speaking of VR, that was actually my third topic.
Good segue.
So yeah, that was perfect. That wasn't even planned. Virtual reality. So there were some VR headsets out there. X-Real was out there. Canon had their M-Real mixed reality headset. Meta had a VR headset. It's still a prototype, so there's no planned release date just yet. They were just showing it off, getting some feedback. But their whole deal was they were developing new hardware. A new VR headset with improved resolution. Of course, you want to get higher resolution and better pass through, so better mixed reality technology. So that was on display on the show floor. So VR is still there. It's still alive and kicking in certain corners. So yeah, NVIDIA, VFX, VR, and then number 4, we already hinted at this when we were talking about the virtual conference attendees, neural networks, radiance fields. That was a topic that kept popping up in different situations. I sat in on a virtual production talk, and NERFs came up as potential way to do pre-viz and post-viz work, to do background, to create 3D backgrounds for virtual sets, that type of thing. It came up in a lot of different talks. So the idea of neural radiance fields, and maybe we should define what that means very briefly, from a very brief. Yeah. So NERFs, or neural network radiance fields, that is the process of taking capture of a real world scenario and then converting it to 3D using a series of photos. You feed the photos into an algorithm, and poof, it spits out a 3D representation of that moment in time that you captured on your phone, and you have the ability to move around it. Unlike a 2D video where whatever you see in that little rectangular square, what you see is what you get. With NERFs, you have the ability to move around that 3D space freely as if it's a video game, and it also preserves the lighting. So that adds another layer of realism. So if it's a bright sunny day and there's shiny objects around, it's able to preserve those reflections and refractions, that type of thing, adding realism to the 3D capture. So that topic came up over and over again, and there have been a lot of papers. I saw a lot of papers and academic research about how to improve that process, how to improve different aspects of the NERF algorithm process, including just making it faster, improving the quality, improving the synchronization, a lot of technical stuff. And aside from the technical stuff, there were a lot of talks about great, we got these 3D captures, how can we use them? So HP Pavilion, I think that's where I actually met up with you.
Yep.
At the HP Pavilion, right by the entrance. So there were a lot of talks, a lot of companies educating the attendees on what makes NERF so special and how it can be used. What are the practical uses of these 3D captures? There was Luma was there, the creator of the consumer NERF app that's on the iPhone. Valinga was there. They gave a talk. They're the ones that can integrate NERFs into Unreal 3D game engines. There was, I think, one of your buddies was actually there giving a talk as well. One of your old friends from the LA Tech Meetups.
Yeah, that would be Timothy Porter and his wife. Who are deep in the space as per usual. It's amazing that they've just kept going and going. I saw them last maybe like 2017, 18, maybe 19-ish, around there, and they're just like the Energizer Bunny is what I told him. They've just been keeping it going and only doing more of what they were doing back when I knew them back then, which was more, I think, VR at the time. VR evolved into now these other crazy things we're talking about. So there's a lot of people that were in VR that have been building, maybe we'll just say the building blocks, or have been solving problems in their corner of what we had, right? Because VR was kind of the thing. And now new categories are opening up, like NERFs, and frankly, even stuff like virtual production. And the new mediums are absorbing old mediums. And that's not an original thought. That's from Mark Andreessen, who was on the Lex Friedman show. And I think we're seeing that, and it's just incredible, like, to see these categories grow.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely growing, it's evolving, and it makes sense. You want to leverage new technologies to solve new and old problems as well. So for example, Nerfs, they are actually, believe it or not, they're on your phone right now. If you go to Google Maps, usually you go to Google Maps and you'll see maybe the map, the 2D map, and perhaps you'll see a street view or even a 3D rendering. Some places of business, they have Nerfs of the inside of their restaurants, of the inside of their hotel lobbies. So that's just another practical use case for these 3D captures. Being able to see like a digital 3D preview of what a location can look like before you physically visit there. So and it makes sense, right? Google Maps, you want to know where things are. Now you can experience things how they feel in 3D. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then there's another use case where using Nerfs for 3D products, being able to scan 3D products and upload them as if, imagine going on Amazon or eBay, and instead of seeing pictures of the shoes that you're going to buy or the aloe vera plant that you're going to sell, right? Imagine you have like a 3D capture of it, and being able to view it from different viewpoints just adds another layer of interactivity, and also gives confidence in the potential buyer. So really great stuff. A lot of fun use cases, but like you said, Aaron, we can dive deeper into that in another episode.
No, totally. So you're already starting to answer this question a bit, but what were some noteworthy technologies and categories in particular that caught your eye?
Okay. Oh, actually, I really loved walking around the exhibition floor, but what really blew my mind was I think they called it the Emerging Technologies Pavilion.
Mm-hmm.
I think they almost jacked the name or maybe it's the other way around.
Right, exactly. I'm the newcomer.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, because I mean they've been around since 1974.
Exactly.
But I don't know how long that pavilion has been around. But the Emerging Tech Pavilion, oh boy, that was freaking awesome. They had everything from have a 3D virtual conference on a 3D display. We did that, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was like a 3-way calling Zoom call. It was like a Zoom call, but in 3D. That is some next level sci-fi type of stuff. I thought it was cool. What do you think? Remember we were in those 3 separate rooms?
The screen made it a little bit like, okay, I'm looking at a screen and there's the 3D avatar, but I think we're going to probably come to a time where it's going to be like that Star Wars scene with R2-D2 projecting Obi-Wan Kenobi. And I could even see that experience being even more mind-blowing. But I think as a proof of concept of showing basically where we're at the starting point, to be clear, it's pretty amazing. And I'm even more excited about how they're going to abstract away the screen, or I'm going to put on my glasses. And so it's really showing that building block, if you will, that's going to become something really amazing, even more so than what we saw, which was absolutely very unique and hasn't been seen before, right?
Yeah. At this moment in time, if you remember, we were sitting down at these tables, we're sitting on chairs, and then it was able to capture us in 3D, the front of us, not the back of us. Well, because why do you need to see the back of my head, right? Mm-hmm. They were using regular webcams mounted on top of these monitors, and they were not just any monitors. They were these special looking glass monitors, they're calling it, looking glass displays that allow you to have this 3D sensation. And they were showing us from like the shoulders up. It was like a bust of George Washington, I think you called it, right? Or a bust of Mozart. It's like we're interacting with living statue busts of each other. So that was really cool. And so it was cool seeing that. And then in addition to that, just all the random things out there that we saw, like, I mean, I didn't get a chance to do it, but you can forage for mushrooms in virtual reality.
Yep.
You can use your feet to move around in virtual reality instead of using your hands to navigate. That was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Very much so.
And then once you exit that little area, you get into the experimental art room. Oh my goodness. That was trippy.
Oh yeah.
Oh man. Now it's all coming back to me. I just remember seeing like a dancing octopus like on a beach, but it was not an octopus. It was like these two like dance performers doing an interpretive dance with the waves. And I don't know what technology they were demonstrating. It was just really trippy and cool. There was this one where you feed in, or wait, you would whisper something in a different language, and then it would, maybe you could explain a little better, like it would turn it into a dream.
Yeah, so you gave it a one sentence response in your native language or a different language if you wanted. And so I actually tried saying a phrase in Hindi and it translated it into English. And then, like you said, it's making an AI generated childhood memory based on your sentence. Wild.
Oh wow. And it visualized it on screen, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Wow. Yeah. So it used a combo of different technologies, some AI, voice recognition, translation, then turning those words into images, and then stylizing those images to look like vivid memories.
No, that's a really good point because I think a lot of people think of AI as one thing, and that was like demonstrating many different aspects of not even just AI, but like you said about the voice recognition, and maybe a lot of it was AI though. But like everyone thinks of AI as generative AI, and it's like that's just one, possibly even small subset of AI. So I think that you make a good
Mhm.
point of they combined a lot of different types of AI, frankly, and probably other tech as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why me personally, I love these crazy experimental, off the wall, zany art installations, because it really opens it up, the possibilities of how we can be using these technologies and kind of combining and remixing them together, smashing them together in new ways. And
Exactly.
yes, it's good to solve practical problems with AI, but being able to step out of that and just having this just unfettered, just crazy, free flowing thinking, and being able to show it out there and get a reaction, that's it's just really cool. I think that's where new ideas and new tech can be born. Some people that walk through that exhibition, seeing those art installations, probably spark some ideas. They probably are going to go home with some brand new ideas and invent something completely brand new because of that, as a result of seeing these art installations.
Yeah, I think that's a great point is that art is meant to kind of maybe shock us or freak us out or make us feel sad or really positive or basically create
Yeah,
some kind of change. So I think that's a really good point what you said. And I think not only were
yeah,
they showcasing the tech, but they were doing it in kind of weird, wacky, quirky ways. Like, remember the TV
yeah.
with the eye on it? That was like, I don't know if it
Oh
was
god, that
following
was
you around,
crazy.
but I was like, is this thing following me around? And maybe that's the point
Yeah,
is they made it kind of set up like that where you were kind of wondering, and that's literally the point, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was that robotic arm. There was a monitor on a robotic arm, and there was this human eyeball displayed on the monitor, right? And you're like, oh, is this thing following me? Like, is it recording what I'm doing, right? Because like we naturally are looking for a face or an eyeball, and like just you feel a bit paranoid, like, can it see me? You know that it's only a picture on a screen. Well, I mean, or do you? Or is it? Or is there a video camera or some type of motion sensor actually following you your every move? I don't. I still don't know. But yeah, like you said, it really just makes you think, and it makes you think about how this technology can be used, how it's being currently used, and what are the potential consequences of using. Oh my goodness, there's just so many different threads we could pull on this right now. But I will say that yes, seeing the immersive emerging tech pavilion and the art gallery was really cool, really thought provoking, and it really showcased the new technologies in fun, exciting ways. So I really loved Siggraph for that, because it was, yes, it had companies with their new hardware, new announcements, and this and that. Yes, they had universities with their new research and really pushing the envelope and trying to make breakthroughs. But then they also had the creative side as well. So they had all parts of the brain. They had the creative, the analytical, and they also had they had everything. They had a little bit of everything, which I really loved. So it was a really great conference. I can't wait to go to the next one, to be honest.
Yeah, and it's going to be in Denver. No comments about the mushroom thing you mentioned earlier, but yeah, I think to your point, the Seagraph kind of taught me, or maybe not taught, but it reminded me of what it is to be a well-rounded so-called intellectual. The concept of a Renaissance man, like you said, the
Yes.
way they were just so thorough in their, you think of science as like clinical and people in lab coats, but I think they really played out a lot of balanced and broad and thorough ways that science can be used. And art is such a big, often maybe overlooked, or maybe it's there but we don't focus on it. So I think, like you said, they really smashed together a little bit of something for everyone. It's almost like there was little corners of science itself there, whether it was art or the tech academic papers, or there was that time tunnel exhibit, which was 50 years of archived art turned into sort of a tunnel art experience. And I had posted on social a bunch of this stuff, so I'll obviously check the show notes. You can get some eyes on it. But yeah, just to kind of close this thread out, you already again started to answer most of it, but was there anything else that was unexpected or surprising, kind of like what you ran into with the art exhibit or maybe in other exhibits? Was there anything else that caught your eye or stood out to you?
What really caught my eye was just how many people from different disciplines came together at the conference. And it's true, because there were people from the VFX industry, there were creatives, there were academics, there were people that are still in college working on new projects. Then there were people that, like the guy I mentioned earlier, that invented computer graphics using an oscilloscope back in the 1960s. So you have a little bit of young and a little bit of old, and you get a lot of different perspectives. So I really thought it was really a crossroads of all these different disciplines from different generations. So, and when you have all those different minds together in one room, great things happen. So that's what really surprised me about it, because this was my first time attending Siggraph, so I wasn't sure what to expect. Just based on what I've heard, I thought, oh man, is this going to be too technical for me? Is it all of it going to be over my head? Well, a lot of it was, but some of them did a great job of explaining in practical terms what this technology can be used for. Yeah, so I really enjoyed this conference. It was great for people that are both creative and technical minded. So that's something that jumped out at me, that there was something for everybody there.
Yeah, and you, I think, just answered my closing question here, which is who might be interested in Siggraph. So you basically said creatives or even academics, but as you said, these genres are blending together. So if you're more researcher vibe, or perhaps creative and you want to use new tools, or you're just maybe a tech enthusiast, like I think we've kind of come at it from different angles of enjoying different corners of what we've encountered. But yeah, was there anyone else you thought should definitely check out Siggraph?
Well, what's great about Siggraph is on the website, it has things broken down by category, all the talks and events broken down by category. So if you are someone who is an academic, someone who is a 3D artist, if you're somebody who is more into traditional filmmaking, if you're someone who is an engineer, an architect, we've met people from all walks of life there. So I'd say there's something for everybody. So I guess I would recommend this conference to people that are maybe on the fence about certain technologies, or maybe they may feel a little intimidated by it. I say just jump into it, and you'll be refreshed to find out that it's actually a very inviting community. I didn't feel too lost at any given moment. I really like the way they presented the material. So that was one of my fears, that it would be too dry, too academic, but no, that was not the case at all. My mind was blown. So I would recommend this conference to someone who wants to learn about new tech, and someone who's inquisitive and wants to ask questions, because there'll be plenty of people there that will love to talk about what they're doing, and they will go on and on and on about it. And it's like an adventure game where you're not sure which dialogue you should choose to exit the conversation. But I mean that in a good way, because that just means that the people here at Siggraph, they're passionate about their craft, and they really believe in what they do. And you could tell just by the enthusiasm. Just walking around the halls of the exhibition halls, just overhearing some of the conversations people are having, the side conversations, people from different companies kind of reuniting. Hey, like as if it's summer camp and everyone's seeing each other again. It was really cool. I really like the positive vibes and energy coming from Siggraph, and I can't wait to go to Denver next year.
No, I think that was a good closing point, and I wanted to just add on to what you said. I think part of why we didn't feel like out of our element, so to speak, although as you point out, it's very easy to get into a talk that's a little bit too crazy with the math, or like what's the details of like how hair the light shines off of hair, there's people that are having that conversation there. But to your point, it kind of reminded me of like being in, high school or maybe even middle school, or, I've gone to international school, so K through 12, so that was kind of a cool environment to be in, because it's almost like you're all there at different levels. So Siggraph, just to echo what you're saying, it kind of reminded me of when you're like in school and there's like, oh, people that are in first grade or fourth grade or 10th grade, and that's kind of how Siggraph is you got college students, a lot of them were volunteers in the yellow shirts, and I was just kind
Yeah.
of almost vicariously through perceiving them, it kind of got me feeling a little more fresh and new about thinking about that. So yeah, I definitely had some, we'll say, childhood like flashbacks of being in school where people are at different levels, and it was kind of refreshing to
Yeah.
remind us that everyone's at different levels and it's okay. And
Yes.
you could come off the street after 50 years in this corner of society, and you could totally jump onto a new topic category through the event. So I think you're right about, basically the way I put it in the show notes was like, it's like a global hub of science research around computer graphics and art and AI and basically like all these other tech topics. So I echo what you're saying about really a great event and making it so approachable. So bravo to the organizers. And by the way, a lot of those people are volunteers. So man, hats off to those people working full-time gigs and still putting a ton of time, basically another full-time job or maybe even more, in addition to what they're already doing in their lives because of their passion and curiosity, like you said a second ago. So was thrilled, and yeah, thanks for coming on and sharing the summary a bit. And yeah, everyone look forward to the Nerf episode coming up pretty soon, maybe even soon after this one. And yeah, how does everyone follow what you're doing, Eric, and keep in touch with you?
Well, you can follow me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is in the show notes. Click here.
Right.
Yeah. That's probably the best way to keep track of what I'm doing.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for jumping on. And, all these summaries are always fun because it's nice to compare notes on what you saw versus what I saw and what stood out to you. And who knows, maybe some other people will chime in. And yeah, it was really cool. Like you said, a lot of fun side conversations with people. So yeah, I might have to join you in Denver. I'll have to give that some serious consideration. Thanks again, everyone. And we will see you in the future.
See you soon. You need to get seventh guest. You got to get missed.